Welcome back, everybody, to We Are TPM with myself, Kyle Teixeira. Sitting next to me is John Teixeira, and this week we are going to discuss a unique investing opportunity. We have here with us over Zoom today, Vazule Hites, who is going to be discussing this unique opportunity. But before we get into that, if you guys have any questions about anything we discuss, want to discuss this opportunity specifically, give us a call, 817-818-9039. Shoot us an email at showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. How you doing, Vazule? Thank you for coming on with us.
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I'm excited to ask questions, answer questions, and everything in between.
Yeah, definitely. So let's start with telling our listeners, viewers, who you are.
Yeah, so just very briefly about myself. So again, I'm Vazule. I'm a Hungarian entrepreneur. When I was in college, I did a few different businesses, from gelato delivery to hedge fund management to creating computer models to trade the stock market to automation. I've pretty much been in every little industry trying to see what I like, where there's a good product market fit. And recently, I was speaking to a friend of mine. We bought a bus, cleaned it out, converted it into a livable space. We put in a shower, a whole kitchen, bedroom, and my friend has been living out of it for the last year and a half now. And I was asking him about, do you get offers, or how much do these things go for on the market? And he's like, every time I take this thing out and drive it, someone always asks me where I can get one, if I can build one for them. I'm like, okay, why don't we do this? Why don't I joined a few Facebook groups under his name, and I'm like, hey, my name is Sam. I'll, here are a few photos of my bus. If you need help with your bus, give me a call. And the amount of responses we got was unbelievable. In 24 hours, we ended up signing a contract with a gentleman in Texas, and we're actually going to go down and build a few shipping containers. So that's kind of a little history of who I am, what I've been up to, and kind of what I'm working on now. So yeah, there you go.
So Kyle, if we could back up, I want to kind of get into where I met Vazule. He reached out to me because we're in the short term. We have so many short term rentals. He was coming out here to visiting Texas, and ran across our listings and quickly realized that we had a whole bunch of listings, that we were doing a great job managing these short-term rentals that we talk about a lot on this podcast. And so that was what drew him to us. And then him and I had a conversation over the phone, and I was just really intrigued. So Vazule and his partner are just starting this, right, Vazule? I mean, you kind of at the beginning stages of this, but really intriguing.
Yeah, this is the dead creation, the very beginning of everything. We're just now building a website. We're just now getting a name together. And exactly like you said, we're heading down to Texas. We were looking for properties that we might want to live in while we're building there. Mm-hmm. And we came across your guys' listings, like crazy good reviews. And you guys had several listings. I said, you know what? Let me just reach out and see who these guys are. And thank God I did. Yeah,
and next thing you know, you're on our podcast. Look at that.
Yeah, crazy how fast things happen, and I really appreciate the hospitality and the interest. It's been amazing.
I wonder if we could get on Joe Rogan's podcast that way. If we just call him and say, "Hey,"
he loves going in different directions. But yeah, I mean, it's extremely appealing and interesting to us. A big part because we've talked about that before. It's like one of those things. Everyone, especially being short-term rental operators, we're like these tiny houses, these buses, like you said, that people just throw up. I've seen things as far as igloos that people rent out. It's crazy how unique you can get because it draws interest, right? And it's a new avenue of not just investing in short-term rentals, but just offering them and giving guest experiences. So I think one thing you said that really interested me is this bus still drives, right? You said he drives this around, and it's still a functional space.
Yep. And, everything stays on all right, you have to take it off the counters, but you got to keep it fairly tidy and whatnot. But I mean, it's, seeing where the market is going and potential recession or depression is, people are really looking for unique stays, right?
Mm-hmm.
The past 5-6 years, most Airbnbs have started looking the same, where it's, white wall and it's the same, you have the TV and the coffee table and the couch setup and it all looks the same. And in a world where, everyone wants something a little bit different or a little bit unique experience, the demand for this stuff has been going through the roof.
So I'm sorry, Kyle, one of the things that intrigued me, Vazule, was you guys are just starting this. You're just starting shipping containers. You have somebody coming out here. You're coming out here in Texas and doing this for somebody. But I kind of tried to nail you down on pricing. And I know you probably don't want to do that today and put out there, how much these things cost, because you're still figuring all that out. But I was intrigued with how many beds you could get basically for the amount it would cost me to buy a normal house. Like if I bought a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in my area, I'm probably averaging somewhere around 250 to 300,000. Okay. It sounds like I could buy your shipping containers fully furnished with a bedroom, a kitchen, and a bathroom, right? In one of these shipping containers, I might be able to buy like 8 of those for that price, right? Maybe even more. Am I wrong there?
You're actually 100% correct. So that math exactly tracks. So what we've been saying is if you take the same amount spent, right? So let's say 300,000, 3-bedroom, maybe 4-bed, whatever, 2-bath home, and instead spent that money on shipping containers, you could come in for, you would be able to do about 8 of them. And the amount of rental income, short-term, long-term vacation rental income that you would get is almost double.
Yeah. Kyle, we have an example of this in Gulf Shores. Mm-hmm. When we were buying in Gulf Shores, we know very well what we can do for 3 bedrooms. What I'm always struck by is when I see the numbers of what people get for 1-bedroom condos on the beach. It's amazing, the difference in price, but yet the difference in rental revenue isn't as great as the price.
Yeah, we've seen that in pretty much all short-term rental markets because there's really, there's a ceiling, but there's also a bottom. You're going to pay a certain amount for a rental, no matter how many bedrooms it has. And then, it goes up too. If you have like a 12-bedroom, you're not going to get much more for that than like an 8-bedroom. Mm-hmm. You just have an outrageous amount of bedrooms at that point for a huge group. So the thing that I've noticed in how we operate and what we've always said to stay in the top percentile of operators and of our rentals is something you just stated, is having something unique that brings the guest in. We've always said that's huge. Like you said, all Airbnbs look the same. People stay at ours because they don't look the same as everybody else's. They have names, they have themes, they give the guest something else. I think it's great what you're doing, that this in itself is a unique experience that, people are striving for, especially when, there's the new culture of, working from home and traveling the country and staying in Airbnbs. People would love to stay in a shipping container, assuming it has, fast internet too, right?
Yeah. And that's all doable. And it's exactly like you said, right? When you can provide some sort of value, whether it's uniqueness of the property or some other service above and beyond, mm-hmm. right? And clearly you guys are doing something right. The amount of reviews is absolutely insane. It's just a value trade. And the more value you can provide, or whether that's uniqueness or, have a specific style, like, okay, this is going to be Viking Central, right? And it's just, you deck it out with the whole thing and
just commit. Yeah. Committing to it.
Tell us more about what one of these shipping containers is going to look like. I know that they're customizable and they could have different themes and they could be whatever you want necessarily. But if I just said, hey, you know what, I'll customize it. Just bring me a standard livable shipping container and dump it at this address. What is that going to look like?
Yeah. So typically they come in 20-foot or 40-foot. Those are the typical standard. Usually we do 20-foot just because 40-foot ends up being a lot longer than you think. Mm-hmm. And in a 20-foot, you can fit a kitchen, living room, bed, bathroom, right? You just get all that stuff and it's on its own, and you can fit a queen bed in there usually. Queen bed.
What's the square footage of that? Is that similar to like a hotel room, you think?
20 times
it's 8. A little bit. I guess it depends on the hotel room, right? But it's. Square footage is probably bigger than this room, but I'm not entirely sure. We can just look it up. But it's livable.
160 square feet, right?
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the types of requests we get, you can cover up the outside, right? Shipping containers are inherently like ugly, right? Some people just want to paint it, like, sand it, paint it, call it a day. Some you can actually just attach, siding to it, right? You put these beams or, these wooden panels on the side and totally make it not look like a shipping container. We've done things, or you can do things where, you make it like an A-frame even, and the shipping container's in the center, and you can cut out and make, like, the flexibility is tremendous. But yeah, usually shipping containers like that.
I'm just going to paint it and make it look like an oversized brick. Yeah.
I mean, we've even seen things where you can like stick it on, upright, so it's shooting straight out of the ground, if you really wanted to. But yeah.
Nick stayed in some in Austin, if I remember right. They were stacked, so I know that you could stack these things on top of each other. You can put them side by side and create pass-throughs, right? There's a whole bunch of stuff that's really versatile that you can do with these things.
Go ahead.
I thought the ones that he stayed in were really neat. It offered the host a unique opportunity to have a large family stay in, like 4 of them, or 4 individual families stay in, the single units.
Yeah. And depending on layout, right, you could have individual containers that are just, larger bedrooms with a connecting one that is like a shared bathroom or something, right? Like the flexibility is crazy, which is sometimes hard, right? When you're talking with people, what do you want? Jeez. Right. Like the sky is the limit. How can you nail it down? So that's something, I mean, we're a new company, right? We're day by day getting a little better every day.
Well, and you said, and I know you're new, so I want to ask this in a specific way, because, I get you're starting out, but tell us how you either picture how it would be today, or how you picture the process being as, say, someone who, I have land, I want to put one of these on it. What would that process look like, kind of step by step with you, to get that from, I assume there's like a, talking numbers, but a design part, and then delivery, how's that all work?
Great question. So I'll answer that kind of in 2 parts of like what that would look like for us, and then more importantly, what that would look like for, like you said, someone buying or, reaching out to us for our services. So for us, the next step, what we're looking to do is track everything, how long it takes to do each individual task when we break down the entire project. And basically what we're trying to figure out, the short story, is how long each individual thing takes, how much can we charge for each individual thing as it relates to the overall project, so that when someone reaches out to us, we can give them one single flat rate. We're not charging for materials. We're not charging for, it's time plus materials. It's just a flat rate for the entire project, right? We spec it out with you. We go over, okay, these are all the individual tasks, price breakdown, like that. We set a date. We come out to you. We build it in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, depending on the size of project. And we leave, and you have a completely finished shipping container or shipping containers that you can instantly start, putting on Airbnb or your own site, renting out, etc. For us, what that means is we need to track a lot of these metrics, right? So, in my automation and machine learning background, is we need to track everything from the time it takes, how many hours, to, this actually took 3 times as long as we thought. Okay, we need to measure that, because on our side, we need to understand how to fairly compensate the people that we work with. And if we can incentivize them and put, little bonuses for each task that gets completed, then we can basically get, everyone pulling the machine in the same direction, right?
So you and I talked about this a little bit. If I'm in Utah and I call you and I'm like, hey, I want 3 of these things. I got a lot of land over here. I've got an acre of land, and I want you to put 3 of these on here. Are you building those in where you are in California and then shipping them over? Or are you coming here and building them here?
We would probably go there and build them there. After looking into zoning and all this stuff, because it differentiates between, state or county by county even, is we would probably go build it there directly on it. We thought about having our own warehouse here, which we have the space to do it. The challenge is moving it. Mm-hmm. When you move it, lots of things shift, lots of things happen. Mm-hmm. The walls that you just put up and look great and are white and are nice,
they start cracking.
Cracks, and you're going to be spending a lot of time, right? So it's like you spend 80% of the work at the warehouse, you ship it, and then you have like 40% of the work, right? Because you end up having to repair a lot of things. Yeah. So that's one of the things, we're kind of massaging around, trying to figure out what actually makes sense. The easiest thing would be to just ship it, but I don't know if it actually is.
Can you ship a shipping container? No.
Yeah, right. I mean,
once it's a house, it's retired, right? That's kind of the point.
All right. So before we move on to the next part, I want to give people a little bit of a vision. Like, there are so many different things you can do with this. You can create a permanent foundation for this thing, right? And lock this thing down, and depending on the zoning from where you're from, I mean, this could be considered a permanent structure. Tell us about, like, are you getting involved with connecting the utilities to it, maybe putting in septic system if I need a septic system? I mean, how in depth is your company getting involved in setting this up? If I just want a turnkey system, are you able to do that?
The short answer is yes. So with the people that we've been talking to over the phone, the guy that we're building for, even though he has some building experience, he's like, you know what? I don't have time to deal with this. I don't want to know about it. I don't have time to learn about all the things. I know kind of what I have in mind. Can you guys just figure it out? Let me know what that means, what I need to do on my end. And we basically start to finish, do everything. And he's going to be on the property so we can see all the progress and updates as we go along. The guys that we work with, they've been building for 15 to 20 years, something like that. We've seen it all. The only difference now is that we're just applying it to mini homes and bus conversions and things like that.
So this is a good point to ask you. I know this will probably become better and more efficient, or whatever you want to tell us here. But what's the timeline on these things? I guess what's your actual timeline? What is your plan for a future timeline? How's that look as far as on the customer end?
Yeah. So timeline, depending on how well the customer has an idea of what they want. Less than a week to figure out the details, figure out exactly what we're able to do. My partner is an aerospace engineer, so sometimes someone wants like windows around the whole thing. It's like, okay, hang on, let's take a step back. Let's see, structurally how we can make this work. We go over that. That typically takes a week, and I say typically, like we've been in business for a while, right? It typically takes a week, and then in terms of the building side, so once we schedule a date to build, right now it's going to take a month, and we're hoping to build 2 shipping containers.
Okay.
It's a stretch, but what that means for us is just planning and preparation, right? Every day we have certain things that need to get crossed off. Each individual task we think takes a certain amount of time, certain amount of hours, effort. We have to go to the hardware store, back, all these things. So we just go day by day, planning out the entire month and say, okay, this makes sense. We'll give a 10, 20% wiggle room in case things take longer. And again, we'll be tracking everything along the way. So the next time we do it, it'll be a lot more accurate. But about a month for 2 shipping containers.
Okay. And I mean, it'd probably get more efficient per container if you're doing them all in one location, I'd imagine.
Yeah. And at the end of this, right, we'll effectively have, back when I was in high school, we were in the robotics team. We ended up, placing top 4% of all, teams worldwide. Is we had this booklet where you could take a layman, someone that doesn't know anything about robotics, and flip through it and step by step go through exactly how we built this robot. And by the end, if they followed the steps and they could see the pieces that were clearly marked, they would have a robot at the end. I want to do the same thing for this, where you can have this booklet step by step, make sure, okay, yeah, we did this. Step 2 is this. Boom, let's go. And just as streamlined as possible. Yeah.
I love it.
That is awesome.
I love it. Where are you willing to do this, Vazule? What are your limitations? You must have a limitation. If somebody's listening out there and they're in Massachusetts, if they're in Canada, if they're what's your limitation to where you will do this?
So definitely I would say our limitation is within the US for now. You have to be within the US, and even then, we'll see about Hawaii and Alaska. It's not something we've totally contemplated yet. It brings a whole different challenge for the tools that we have available to us, and shipping containers being over there. I have no idea. For now, as long as you're in outside of maybe Alaska, maybe Hawaii, we can pretty much get to you.
All right. continental 48 states. You brought up a good point. The shipping containers are coming from California, but if I'm in a port city like Houston that might already have some, is it cheaper for me to buy my own or to have you go to Houston and buy one there instead of shipping it all the way across the country?
That's what we would do. So depending on where you are, we would take a look at what's available in the closest market, just because typically that tends to be cheaper than, transporting all this stuff back and forth, pain in the butt. And so, yeah, we would typically take a look at the resources near you. And if there is something, great, we'll work that out with you. I mean, we're totally transparent about all this. We're learning as we go. But basically at the end of the day, you're paying us for this outcome. We're going to do whatever it takes to get there. So,
I got another crazy question for you. Can I present another one, Kyle?
Go right ahead.
You all right?
That's why we're here, right?
So I've got one in my backyard. This is hypothetical. I don't have one in my backyard, but I have seen this before. I've got one in my backyard. I'm using it for storage. Mm-hmm. And I've listened to you, or I've gotten this crazy idea to turn it into maybe an ADU in my backyard, right? An ADU, by the way, is an additional dwelling unit. Sorry about the jargon. My bad. I want to turn it into one of these units in my backyard. Are you willing to come out and do that?
Yep. So prices would probably be slightly different. We're in the process of helping people that have like a half-built situation and are just like, they've run out of time, right? They have a job, they have kids, and they're like, okay, I just need this thing done. Can someone come out and deal with this? Yeah. We're flexible on that. No big deal. We'd work with you to take a look at the zoning laws there, make sure everything's up to code. You need electrical out there, plumbing. Some of the people don't want plumbing, like for bus conversions, is instead they just want I forget the name of it, but it's a compostable toilet. And so like, okay, yeah, that's totally fine. We go through all the options with you, and here are the benefits, here are the cons, all this stuff, and yeah. The short answer is yes. I mean, again, it's new. We think we can do it. We're going to do everything in our power to make it happen. But I mean, it's pretty straightforward on our side.
Okay. Well, let me. I want to make this. I want to ask you a question that you've answered in parts, but just to make this beneficial for you and real for our listeners, and based on the example you gave earlier, I want to buy 8, right? I'm gonna. How do I do that? I want 8. I'm looking at property in Fort Worth. I'm about to submit an offer on it, but I want to make sure zoning, all that stuff's good. So this is tomorrow, the day this thing comes out. I hear our podcast. What do I do?
So maybe the easiest thing, you could reach out to us. We would take a look at the zoning laws for you. We would take a look at the documents and regulations. We would work with you to understand, okay, is there water already on the property? What's the electrical situation? We would go through all these things. And then over the course of the week, we would plan out with you not only just the look, feel, style, overall goals that you had in mind for this property, wave your magic wand. What exactly would you love to see happen? I want 8 that all do this, and each one's a different style, or maybe they're all like a Hawaiian theme, or we'd work with you to figure all that out. On our side, we'd go back and forth at first in just sketches, what each of these individual containers would look like. And then we would probably put it into some 3D modeling software just so you could visually, so you could see and turn it this way, that way, and say, okay, yeah, this is exactly what I want. What we're building. We know what we're building for you. And then we'd set a date and we'd figure out, okay, it's going to cost this much, quote you guys, probably bring down the price a little bit if you're buying 8, right? It makes our job easier, right? If we do installation for 1, might as well do installation for 8. So it makes our job a little bit easier. And then we'd plan it out and work from there. So it's pretty straightforward.
Well, that may or may not have been a real question, but
I feel like there's a shipping container subdivision in my future, Vazule.
It's doable. We have lots of fun ideas. We can't do them all, but
the only thing I'd say to that is a suggested step in there would be consult a great short-term rental operator about what you're going to make on these shipping containers and where to put them. But the rest of that process sounds great.
You know what? That's a great point, Kyle. I mean, let's not gloss over that. If you're thinking about doing this, you should reach out to somebody who does to manages short-term rentals on a regular basis to give you an idea of what your revenue stream is going to be, whether it's a good idea or not. Look, this is a unique opportunity in almost every market, even if it's oversaturated, right? I would try this even in an oversaturated market where there's too many Airbnbs because it's different. It's unique enough that even if you're in a market, you're like, hey, I'm here and my market's oversaturated and I don't want to add another Airbnb. Do this, man. You got some land, you got a quarter acre, you got half an acre over there. You want to put 1 or 2 of these on it and try it. And especially if you're out in the county and you're outside the city, like try it, right? It probably, I'm doing some guessing here because we don't have the experience with it, but it would probably do really well.
I've seen and stayed in some of these little, they call them like communes almost, and in a few cities in Texas and other places where they kind of centrally, they do something unique and name it the whole little complex something, and it works. So, but I guess to your point, make sure you, in any market, at least evaluate that it's going to be beneficial to what you're spending. So.
And, to your point, John, like talk about a great value add, right? If someone hasn't done the research, they're just asking and they kind of want us to do that. Like that's a thing we've done in the past, right? Analyze the area, figure out what existing properties of that kind are doing. We can see occupancy even just on Airbnb or just reaching out to them and that sort of a thing. Could be an interesting value add in the future as well.
And that's what we do for our clients too, Vazule. I mean, they come to us and they ask us about these opportunities, and we give them that analysis. We do that analysis of whether we think, I just said no again yesterday to somebody in a market. It was like, you know what? I hate saying no because I love doing this for people, but I got somebody that wants me to do a short-term rental somewhere. And I was like, no, I can't. This is not a good market for it. So it's not always a great idea. And having somebody that can do that analysis for you that's data-driven to show you why it's a good idea or not a good idea is really important whenever you're starting any business. And that's what these are. These are all little businesses.
They're individual businesses, yeah.
Yep. So,
and I think that's awesome that you guys do that. The fact that you're willing to say, you know what, we've done our research, we know what's out there. Even though this could be profitable for us, the best option might not be to move forward together, right? And like that's what it's about, right? Providing value in any way you see, any way you can, or a good partnership here too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But fortunately, with what we do long-term and short-term. So we're always looking at it from both those angles. And if we're not making enough, out of the short-term rental, we could still do a long-term rental, and you could still build wealth with real estate with a long-term rental, right? That's how we've traditionally done it. So this whole short-term game is still kind of a new game, right? I mean, we're still in the early stages of it, even though it feels like we've been doing it forever now.
Well, and I think what you're also pointing out is this, what's great about this unique opportunity you're presenting here is it really extremely limits that. Oh, this area is not good versus because usually we're considering what your cost of ownership is. We've talked about that in the past. In a house are we going to be able to do well enough on this short-term rental to outpace your cost of ownership with the price points and the ability you're providing here with this opportunity? That's pretty much a yes in all markets, just because of how unique it is. People are gonna stay in it, and it's a lower cost of acquisition compared to really anything. So.
And the cost. I mean, Vazule, I don't want to put you on the spot, and I know how difficult it is, but do you want to give a range of what these things would cost without any extra utilities? Do you even want to throw that out there?
I mean, I can give a rough range, right? So this first project in Texas will really, really get a feel to see if we price this thing right, or is the guy getting a really good deal, or are we right? I mean, it's such a low barrier to entry, right? Even if you stretch it, I would say not even on the high end, but like medium range of like $40K, let's say, per container. It's such a low barrier to entry compared to spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on a whole entire property and risking that amount. Instead, you bring the amount that you risk way lower and can still get some sort of comparable return that is actually end up being a little higher than what you would dollar for dollar spending the higher amount. I mean, again, it depends so much. 40,000 for a container or two. It really just depends.
There's something that you probably haven't experienced, but as operators for years, we've ran into this issue, especially with Airbnb being so new, is there's some places that don't have regulation yet, or maybe change regulations, and where you used to be able to operate a short-term rental, now you can't because of some change or something the city council did. You could just move this thing, your city bans it, and you're like, okay, well, I might have to do a little bit of repairs, like you said earlier, but I'm not losing my whole investment. I'll just move it to this city that still allows it. So it's
even if you bolt this thing down to a concrete foundation, you could still unbolt it and go, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like at the end of the day, they're super mobile, right? You still own the land that still has value, and you still own the assets on top, which can be moved.
So exactly, and I bring that up because it's a risk factor, right? And people, minimizing those risk factors while maximizing the rewards is all what building wealth and investing is about.
This is a really new thing, and I'm gonna throw this out there. That also might be exactly what keeps conventional lending from getting involved in this stuff. A lot they've had a hard time with mobile homes.
It's hard to get loans on mobile homes or good interest rates because you can just up and take that thing with you. So so
they make you take the axles off of them and everything else before they'll give you a loan for them. So
especially if you're a trucker, maybe they won't let you do that, right? You could just connect this thing and drive away. But like you said, I mean, ideally, this is equivalent or less to what you'd spend these days on a down payment. So you're not even strapped to a lien or anything. You're pretty much buying these outright and doing with it what you will. So
yeah, and I mean the market for them, at least the ones that we've been building, since we're so new, right? We've brought down our price a bit to see where the market is, test all these things out, make sure we know what the heck we're doing. These things are resellable too, right? If it comes to the day where it's like, you know what, I don't want to have anything to do with what I bought. The going rates for these things are really comparable, and you can get your money directly back out.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty liquid. They're surprisingly liquid. At least it has been for us.
So you're doing some research and finding them on like Facebook Marketplace, and you're finding them out there. People are reselling these things. And they're doing it so quickly that people that buy one of these from you shouldn't be as concerned about getting out of a bad decision if it didn't work out.
Yeah, literally the worst case scenario is 1, we might even buy it back from you. 2, you can go ahead and resell it, and depending on what the market is exactly, either recoup your entire investment or like 80% of it, right? So your risk is just 20% of whatever you'd pay. There's so many different ways where you can benefit worst case scenario, right?
And you just touched on it a bit, but I was going to say, and I know you're new, but I'd imagine into the future, you'd be a great resource also for that liquidity. Like, you guys are selling these to more people. You're like, well, you could be a resource to get it to a new buyer and kind of be that conduit. So not pegging you down to that being your service, but if
well, it's a good point, because on our side, to diversify, right? Mm-hmm. Like, yes, we're selling these to individuals who are going to rent them out, but if we don't have business, we'll just build them for ourselves, because we'll put it on our property and rent it out. It's a win-win. Yeah.
Well, awesome. I think this was a very fruitful conversation.
I hope so. I hope this little unique opportunity and Vazule getting, listen, y'all, if y'all thinking about doing something like this, there's probably people out there that have more experience than Vazule, but I can tell you, he seems to have a lot of passion for what he does, seems to care about what he does. And I love getting in with somebody that you like on the ground floor, right? Like, I instantly hit it off with Vazule. I really liked him, and I want to. He's fired me up. I want one of these things. I want to find an opportunity to go buy one right now.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully very soon we can do a testimonial for this as well. So looking forward to that conversation.
Can we take our podcast on the road, Steve, when we open one of these things up?
Is it going to be too echoey in a shipping container?
Can I stay there?
Yeah, he's going to stay with us.
Steve wants to stay at the shipping container.
All right, let's get a little more real, Vazule. How do how do we contact you? How does somebody contact you if they want to do this?
So the number that we've been going at is 209-770-2134. That's the direct line here. We'll help you out directly. Of course, if they reach out to you guys, we'll be in close contact too.
Definitely.
But yeah, for now, we don't have a website. We're just now taking pictures. We're just now getting all this stuff together. You guys hit us right in the dead beginning. It's just happening. So as we get more information, maybe I'll be back on this podcast in the future. Who knows? With some more detailed information, we'll see how the Texas trip goes. But yeah, for now, you can reach out via phone or email.
Love it. And if and of course, reach out to us. We will be happy to connect you with Vazule. What do we call you? You got a company name yet that you guys are running this under, or
we have a few different maybe we should run it by ChatGPT, see what ideas it has for us.
That's
right?
a good idea.
But yeah, we'll starting this week, we set up LLC, we set up an EIN, and get everything together. So we'll need a name.
Let's do that right now. Let's run it through ChatGPT right on the podcast and see what they come up with.
All right, let's see.
Huh? Look, he's doing it. He's going to do it right now. I love it.
Should I share my screen?
Let's do it.
No, you could just tell us what it comes up with.
We're in the trend of GPT.
Now we're just having fun at the end of our podcast now.
Yeah, we'll see. Hey, you never know. Let's see. All right, so I'll just type out. I have a bus. All right. I have a bus conversion, shipping container conversion, and tiny home building company. I need business name ideas. I want it to be something that sends a message that we build things that are, beautiful, strong, good quality. All right, give me 10 ideas for names. Let's try this.
Wow, that was a lot. I would have given a lot less, huh?
It's amazing what it does with less too. Somebody's listening to this podcast, like this is a whole nother thing for them to like ChatGPT.
Yeah,
what?
We should probably explain that.
No, we won't. You Google it. You'll
Google
find
that.
out.
That's a whole other, how do you apply ChatGPT to your guys' business like that? That would be a whole
we
other.
We could have a whole
really
conversation about that.
Okay, so we got a few here. We got container craftsmen, we got bus builders, tiny home titans, converted creations, mobile masterpieces, quality quarters, built to last, sturdy spaces, tiny transformation. I'll play around with it.
Those are great ideas.
Ask it what's the best one.
Those are all great ideas. I like mobile masters. I liked a few of those. That was great.
Yeah, not bad for a computer program here. Jeez Louise.
All right.
Yeah.
I'm glad we did that. Vazule, thank you for taking the time to spend some time with us to share this unique opportunity with anybody who might be listening to us. And we wish you well. We know we'll be doing some business in the future and trying to look for opportunities for both of us, right? To help each other, because your business and our business, they go hand in hand. And so I look forward to seeing how you launch from here. Kyle, you want to close us out?
Yes, thank you for coming on here. And this honestly was the first time we even talked. So it was great discussing this with you. Appreciate you coming on. And if anybody wants to give us a call to discuss this, number again is 817-818-9039. Always shoot us an email at showmethemoney@wearetpm.com. And thanks for tuning in.
Bye, y'all.